Sunday or Monday. Hi, everyone. Great to see you guys again. I'm so excited for today. I know we're live and we have a few minutes. So what's going on in the school world?
We're growing, and of course, we're having more experts by the day.
Oh, I think he's breaking up, Odisi. He might have to rejoin us. So, Odisi, what's happening on our school world? What's happening in the community? I know that some experts are going to be joining our platform. Hey, he's back.
No thanks to the network. All right, but I hope you can hear me. We are too cool for school. So basically, we're bringing numbers in the community, and of course, we've got a lot of plans, right? In terms of the value drop, in terms of the resources, we have a couple of courses already in the school community, and of course, this webinar is actually linked to the school community. So members of the school community can attend the webinar live. So Modise, actually, he's working on a couple of things for the school community. He was actually going to send a couple of things in today. So Modise, please tell us about what you're cooking.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So again, school community is primarily to help like corporate professionals really get into developing their personal branding and like really building their authority within the space, right? So the way that we've actually best found to handle this is to provide the core fundamental structure, which can kind of serve as like guidelines and parameters based on some of the stuff that our guests have done, and also based on some of the criteria and the best practices that they suggest. So typically, the best way that we have actually found to do this is to kind of have like an ongoing weekly challenge, which is themed around like one of the prior episodes which we've actually had, right? So on the Monday, we'll kind of introduce the episode and some of the talking points. And then from there on, we'll kind of delve deeper into it so that we can really like break it down so that at the end of that week, like it's not just a passive episode that you've consumed, it's actually broken down into practical like steps and insights that you can actually execute on to ensure that you actually are delivered with the relevant like let's say outcome or result of whatever the specific topic or theme would have been for that week.
That's fantastic. I mean, it sounds like we're really progressing. I'm glad to hear that we have a couple of courses already lined up. I know with this webinar and future webinars, we have a lot of different types of people that are going to be joining us, which I'm really excited about. You know, this is something that's much needed out there. I think both of you would agree with me that, you know, the small business community and larger enterprises today are all seeking ways to be connected, right? Post COVID, a lot of disconnection happened, and you know now we're all trying to get back and help one another thrive. So I'm looking forward to this community. I can't even tell you how grateful I am to be contributing. You know, with any further ado, though, let's kick off our webinar today. So, welcome everyone to the Bulletproof Accountant Masterclass. How do you like that? Um, how to deploy private local AI agents to secure your firm and automate SOC level cyber defense without an IT team and a monthly SaaS fee. Wouldn't that be great? So, I want to kick off today. My name is Michelle Novak, founder and CEO of Cardinal Byte Cybersecurity Risk and Compliance Management. We help CPAs, tax professionals, bookkeepers, and accountants get compliant with the IRS and FTC safeguard rules. I have over 30 years experience in the financial sector as an auditor in enterprise and risk governance. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam Oley.
Okay. I'm a man that wears many hats, but I like to summarize my expertise as finance, media, and tech. So I do have, unfortunately, I tend to forget that I'm an accountant, right? I'm a CPA like Michelle as well.
Exactly.
I do have a background in the big four audit firms, PwC and KPMG. And of course, cybersecurity was a big part of what we used to do. And in the media world, I'm a globally ranked podcaster. So I host two globally ranked podcasts. The Kingdoms podcast is ranked global top 2%, and Diary of a CFO is ranked global top 3%. And in terms of the tech world, I'm an SEO expert. Also build websites, and of course, do a lot of tech research. But I have somebody who is way better than me when it comes to tech, computer scientist. I'll let him introduce himself. Michelle Nova calls him Modise, but the real South Africans call him Modise.
Okay.
Modise, over to you.
Thank you for that. So yes, my name is Modise, and I am essentially a developer or software engineer. So yes, we develop all kinds of applications, websites, really you name it. But like we started to really focus in and hone in on like the AI like advantage, as this is obviously a very relevant and a very hot topic. So it's really primarily just helping businesses and established enterprises find better ways of actually integrating it into their like existing workflows and what that actually looks like on a day-to-day like basis. Because obviously there are nuances in existing processes, and you cannot just throw ChatGPT at somebody and expect them to be able to derive like valuable insights from it. They actually need the relevant guidance and the relevant I'd say skill sets really, because it is a skill set to actually know how to go about using it so that they can actually achieve much more efficient and much better outcomes ultimately.
Yeah, that's great. Listen, I mean, I'm
Speaking of
very proud to be with
outcomes,
both of you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
as consultants, we actually help, what I say, our clients to achieve their desired outcomes.
Yeah. And I think with the school community and everything else, I mean, we have powerhouse, right? I like to call us the power three here on this webinar, because you're getting the cybersecurity skill set, right? The cyber engineering skill set. You're getting the software engineer and architect, right? And then you're also getting the auditor's perspective. You're getting someone who lived and breathed audits all day long. So think about that. So today we're going to teach about what we're going to learn is a digital robot, right? To keep your client's secret information safe from the bad guys online. More hackers are targeting small accounting firms because they think they don't need fancy security tools. AI DIY is your secret weapon to fight back without needing $1 million budget. And today we're going to teach you a lot about AI. I'm going to hand it over to Modise, and he's going to talk a little bit about what AI is. So I'm just going to ask everybody to keep their selves on mute. All questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. We're here to support. And without any further ado, let's turn it over to Samadisi. What is AI? Talk to us.
Of course. So AI is really so artificial intelligence. It's really best thought of as an assistant to help you. So there are really three categories which it can help you. If you had viewed one of our more recent episodes on the Kingdoms podcast, you'd actually know what I'm talking about. So AI, it helps you do things that you cannot do. It helps you do things that you can do, but it helps you do it at a much more effective rate. And it actually helps you like extend or do the more mundane tasks, which are actually part of your workflows, right? So the more mediocre stuff that you wouldn't really want to do, it helps like remove that so you can focus on the more critical aspects. And it helps you do what you do already like and enjoy doing at a much higher level, and then it also assists you in doing stuff that you cannot actually do like in the first place. So I'm just going to break that down a little bit more in the corporate sense so that you can get a better sense as to what it looks like in reality, or on a day-to-day basis, right? So what do I mean when I say it can help you do like stuff or achieve tasks which are part of your workflow, but it's more the mundane stuff, right? So Ademola had mentioned that like some of his work actually includes research tasks, just to ensure, obviously, with the guests, you want to ensure that the person that we're bringing on meets a certain criteria. Join our school community for more information on that, because that's why we made it. But nevertheless, um, so again, the like research aspect of it and really distilling a lot of information across the web, that is quite an intensive, both in terms of time, energy, and effort, to really consolidate all of that information into a suitable like description, if that makes sense. So what we found is using these tools actually allows like your deep research agents, for example, on like your GPT, Cloud, or Perplexity. It really does help distill a lot of that information into a much more consumable and a much more manageable like a chunk, if that makes sense, or like format. And it makes it a lot easier to present it because the simpler it is, the easier it is to understand. And the easier it is to understand, obviously, the easier it is to actually perpetuate and actually teach it moving forward, right? So, and then in terms of like helping you do what you are already good at, but at a much higher level, think of this more so in your coding sense. So, a lot of developers will typically, so it's not really like work that we are unable to do, because obviously there is a certain level of technical aptitude you do need to have to be able to leverage it in that sense. But it does help with like your more boilerplate like logic, just really getting out like working prototypes as soon as possible, just so that you have a base to work off of when you are going into it more hands-on and more intuitively, if that makes sense. Um, and then in terms of actually doing things that you cannot do in it entirely, so I actually wouldn't recommend using AI to do something that you don't know how to do yourself, simply because you wouldn't be able to moderate it and you wouldn't be in a position to actually like evaluate how well the output it's providing you is. So I think we should mainly focus on doing the more mundane tasks and then just helping it do what you already do at a much better level. I think for a lot of people that is the sweet spot which they should actually typically aim for. So really AI is an assistant that was created to help you do your job better and more effectively. So don't think of it as oh, it's gonna take my job, oh, it's going to make me redundant. You should learn how to use the tool, because the people that learn how to use the tools are the people that are actually going to replace the people that don't know how to use the tools. It's not the tool itself that will replace you. It's somebody that knows how to use it in a much more effective way than you do, because their output will by far like surpass yours, if that makes sense. But with that being said, I'd like to hand it over to Ademola. I know he has a few more talking points he'd like to add on to that.
Yeah, I mean, before you jump in, I just want to jump in there. I mean, from an auditor's perspective, right? And when we're using AI, it's important that you understand that there's a difference in AI and the difference in the types of AI. And I know Adamola is going to talk more about this because it's critical to understand that. But if you're using free public AI, you got to be careful of leaking client data.
You're in trouble.
And I'm just going to throw it out there. So let me turn it over to you and let's go to our next slide. The types of AI, my friend. Let's talk about it.
Okay, the types of AI, right? And of course, kudos to Medice for that really well detailed explanation about AI. I am AI, right? So, just a quick story. Artificial intelligence, right, is what AI is. But I remember growing up and I think when I was probably about 10 years old, my father took me to a lake and he told me this lake is an artificial lake. And I asked him, what does it mean, an artificial lake? And then he told me, anytime you hear something is artificial, it means it is man-made. It is made by man, right? And that stuck with me. But of course, many years ago, my parents named me, with a name that has initials AI. I never knew I was going to become like an AI enthusiast, an AI expert later in the future. And when you think about it, artificial intelligence is actually made by man. So we live in an age and time wherein AI
Oh, we may have lost him. Yes.
judgment. AI can never replace humans because it is made by humans. So we have three types of AI. We do have three types of AIs. So we have the generative AI, which on our slide is called the writer. So this is like a super smart parrot, that can write emails, reports, and tax summaries in seconds. So take, for example, your ChatGPT, your Claude, your Gemini, right? So this is about generating, you're generating ideas, you're generating narratives with that type of artificial intelligence. And hold that, that is why it is called generative AI. And of course, you also have the Scout, which is the predictive AI. And what is prediction about? Prediction is about um, certain trends, predicting trends, predicting or analyzing in such a way that you're able to make a prediction or a forecast about future patterns. So, how does this work? It finds patterns, in a multitude of data, and it, would I say, guesses or guesstimates, right? Now, I would say guess is probably maybe quite not very much understandable to the layman, right? But when you say you're guessing, it's not just a random guess. It is a calculated guess. It is an educated guess, right? So you're making an estimate as to what might happen in the future or finding errors. Now, the beautiful thing about AI is the fact that it is able to analyze data that is in large quantity. And of course, we call that big data. And I remember the episode with Ron Shevlin. He said something. He said, if the quality of your data is low, your AI strategy will blow. So always remember, garbage in, garbage out, right? Your
Yes.
AI is only as smart as the human behind the tool. And always remember that AI is a tool. So this prediction that the AI is making is based off the data that you're feeding the AI tool. So an AI tool is only as good as the data that it has access to. And of course, the most powerful of them all is the agent, right? The agent is a doer. So it's more like a verb. It's an action. It's an action word, right? So this kind of AI, it doesn't just talk. It's not about conversations. It's about following directions, following instructions, following plans, right? And of course, it uses tools and it finishes tasks for you. Now, when it comes to the agents, there are three types of agents, right? And of course, this was discussed in the episode with Steve Brown. Steve Brown is the ex chief futurist of Google DeepMind. That is the parent company of Google Gemini. And I know a lot of us, in this session would have used tools like Google Gemini or your ChatGPT. Now, talking about the three types of agents, right? The first one is the offload, right? The offload agents does mundane tasks that you pretty much don't want to do, like scheduling your calendar, like booking, would I say events or booking uh, your travel or something, right? Basically, mundane, repetitive tasks are the kind of things that your offload agent does. And the next one is you have the extend, right? And you have the elevate. But
Mm.
talking about elevate, elevate basically helps you, as the name implies, to do what you can do, but in a more efficient way. So, take for example, myself being an accountant, Michelle being an accountant, Modise being a computer scientist. He can write code, but he does that better using Claude. And of course, he can review the strings of code that he has done using an AI agent. So it basically enhances your efficiency. So I think about certain reports, certain analysis I used to do in the past, and it could take me possibly like a whole day. Nowadays, it takes me probably just like an hour. Many thanks to the Elevate agents. And of course, the last set of agents you have are the um, extend agents, right? So as the name implies, extend, you're extending beyond, your frontiers. You're extending and doing what you can't possibly do. You have an idea in your head. For example, I don't know how to build apps, but I've been able to do such many thanks to the extend kind of agents. I previously did not know how to create websites, right? But now I'm able to do that many thanks to the extend agents, right? So it is very important we understand a term called engineering. So with prompt engineering, right, you're able to provide the precision in terms of the instruction. Because remember, the agents or your AI tools go to execute what you tell them to execute. And it's important that we learn to we learn to avoid ambiguity in terms of how we communicate to our AI tools. And of course, the next slide basically is about how to talk to AI. And of course, Michelle has done a great job labeling this prompting for third graders. I've never had to teach third graders in my so you're talking about number one, pick a job, right? You are a world-class CPA. Yeah, I am a world-class CPA because I have worked with some of the best in the world, right? And of course, yeah, number two is about giving a task. So, for example, you're talking about look at the vendor contract for red flags. Now, these are instructions, right? Now, coming from number one, you are instructing your AI tool to act as a world class CPA to execute a task that a CPA would typically execute. You can see this is very straightforward and this is precise, right? Precision and accuracy are very important in the world of prompt engineering. And of course, prompt engineering, don't forget about, I think engineering sounds like a complex thing, right? But basically, prompt engineering is the I need to break this down as simple as possible, right? So I think a
Yes.
lot of people get scared with technical jargon, but prompt engineering basically is about how do you give instructions to your AI tools, and the instructions are called your prompts. So you don't need to be a rocket scientist, you don't need to be an engineer, you don't need to be highly educated to be able to, perform the best prompt engineering. You just need to be able to articulate what you want in the most simplistic terms. And of course, the third is setting a rule. For example, you say, show me the top three risks in a simple list. It is very important to set the rules when you are given your AI tool a task to perform. And this typically comes up a lot during more complex tasks, right? So for example, in the corporate world, we have the way we like to, what I say, design our narratives. So, for example, when I used to work at PwC, PwC has certain templates. PwC has certain procedures, right, that are different from the other audit firms. And of course, depending on the industry that you're in, right, you would always have your standards that you need to apply in performing certain tasks. You need to ensure that these rules are set or communicated in the most simplistic of forms to your AI tool. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I just want to add to that really quick. It's like to get a robot to help you, right? Because it's really, everybody says AI is a robot. We see Elon Musk walking around building these robots and they're all AI driven. And, let's talk about that, right? Like, the two of you, we're very in depth about what's happening out there in the world. But, getting back to command prompt, as we call it, or prompt engineering. There's so many different things. The rule is critical. And I always tell everybody, it's like giving instructions to a friend on how to play a game. That's how simple it is, right? But you have to be articulate. But I'm going to get on to the next one. But Adamole, I think you're spot on, right? Like, keep it simple. Learn the tool. And then when we think about AI in a whole, it's like the boss. The boss is a boss in the future. And you have to adapt now and understand it, because I think Modisi said something that was very important. You're going to get left behind. AI is not replacing you. It's the people who are learning AI and how to use it that are going to replace if you don't adapt. So that's critical. And I think that was a really clear message. So I appreciate it. But here's your next slide, the easy wins. Right? We're going to talk about what? The easy wins today. So why we need it? Why do we need it? I'm going to challenge you. Why do we need this, Automoli? Why do we need it?
In terms of the easy wins, right? So we can see from this graphical illustration, we have 80% human error, right? Of course, 20% technical hacks, right? And of course, most hacks actually happen because of a mistake, not a genius coder. Human beings, we are human. They say to err is human, but to forgive is divine, right? To err is human, but to be efficient 100% is AI, right? So think of AI as a professional that does not sleep, right? This reminds me of the Bible. They say the God of Israel, the God that keeps Israel does not sleep, neither does he slumber. You get it? So basically, God has given us the knowledge to create, AI that does not sleep, and it has 100%, would I say, availability when it comes to performing tasks, which we don't have as humans. So
Yeah.
it is very important, this world of today, wherein the hackers do not sleep. And of course, like Michelle loves to say, to fight a bot, you need a bot. So you can't afford not to be using AI in this age and time, because we are all subject to human error. And it's a way of mitigating the risks that are in your business environment by ensuring that you apply AI tools to help with your security.
Yeah, listen, and I want to jump in here. So, DC, let me ask you this, right? With your background, why do you think we need oversight? Like, I'm just curious from your perspective, especially being a computer scientist. Why do you think the oversight is important here?
I think the oversight is really important because it provides parameters that allow you to better differentiate right from wrong, or better to like understand what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, which is ultimately a very critical like aspect of actually using the AI. Because so just to take it back to the prompting, like part of the reason why you need to ensure that you're using it within a domain that you're like actually proficient in is because you are able to actually evaluate its output according to your existing expertise, right?
Mm,
So if it was to interpret something in the incorrect format or way, you'd be able to pick that up and to correct it, because a lot of the problems also stem from trying to use it to do something that you yourself don't know how to evaluate or do. Because then if it gives you an incorrect response, you are going to take it as if it's correct, and that's ultimately what feeds into part of this human error, um like like part of the graph, right?
yeah.
So yes, like definitely, um, the oversight is very very important, because again it helps give us the parameters to help structure and guide how we use these tools, because they can be just as bad as they can be good. It just depends. Really,
Yeah.
just depends on which
Exactly.
like on
AI
what they're using it for.
hallucinates.
Mm,
AI
Say
exactly.
it, Adamola.
hallucinates.
Yeah, say it. I mean, listen, I think that's a clear message, right? Like both of you, and I agree with that, right? Like it can be just as bad. And you made a valid point there. Like with AI, using any of the tools and anything that we're teaching you today, if you're not an expert and you don't know what the expectation is that it's outputting, you could very easily accept something and have a problem, right? Even like when you're running reports, or if I use it for cybersecurity. I use it sometimes to review code, but I know how to write code. To your point, right?
Mhm.
So I know if it's giving me the right information or if it doesn't. And if it doesn't, I know when to say, hey, you're hallucinating, you're drifting, back up, right? But again, fundamentally, nothing's 100%. You need that human oversight. So that's interesting. I'm gonna click on Adamola unless you want to add something else to why we think we need oversight with AI. Anything else you want to add there?
We definitely need oversight because I was remembering something that happened, and this is in the corporate world, and this happened last year. Uh, I definitely need to keep the identity of the individual and the corporation, anonymous. But let's call this person A. So person A pitched for a contract, right, for a technical review for a client, and this was a complex financial, would I say, analysis. And the deadline was very, very tight. So an accounting firm refused that engagement, but this guy with a small firm accepted the engagement, and he used AI to perform this project. And guess what? I don't know if the
Yeah,
AI hallucinated or something. In the words of Matisse, it can be as bad as as much as it can be good.
exactly.
Bottom
I'm
line,
sure.
this
Yeah,
guy this guy is currently contending with a litigation for using AI to do client work.
yeah. We
So
heard that. I mean, we heard in the
yeah,
news there are a couple of those cases where, like, they were shutting down the AI. That's where a lot of this cybersecurity and the risk and the governance. So auditors look for that now, right? Like, if your employees are using AI to solve problems and you're not aware of it, Modisi, you made a point. Litigation, right?
Yeah, you have to be very careful. Especially because like you had also mentioned like leaking client data, right?
Yeah,
So like cloud, one of Anthropic's tools, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Cloud Code.
GDPR.
They had like a huge like leak because within the dependencies of one of the like tools, one of the primary like harnesses really to help like with the coding. They included the source maps, which reveals and untangles the entire code base that like essentially runs the tool, and that is proprietary like private data. So it just goes to show that like there are real world consequences for some of the stuff. So you just need to make sure that like you're within the parameters of the acceptable like usage according to your company's policy as well. Because if something goes wrong, like it's not the tool's fault, it's the person that used the tool's fault.
yeah,
And like ultimately,
Hmm.
that like level of accountability should just help you even more like in tune and even more alert to what it's actually doing. Because you don't want to blindly like just accept what it's doing and then pass that as your work. Because ultimately, again, like God forbid, but like if there are any issues, then you need to be able to actually explain what the thought process was, how you got there. But more importantly, you need to be in a
Hmm.
position to ensure you don't get there to begin with.
right.
But yeah, in the event that you are there, you need to be able to explain very, very, very clearly what it was that would have caused that, and that it wasn't like negligence or something. Because again, the person using the tool is the person responsible for what the tool does. So
Hmm.
just keep that in mind as well and be very careful, especially when dealing with very sensitive data.
Yeah, and I second that motion. But for the time, for our time's sake, I'm going to move along because we have a couple of slides to get through. But I think this was a really good conversation, and oversight is very important. So, Adam Ole, let's talk about PII and inventory, right? Let's get a little bit into the weeds today about what we want to share with people and how to use prompt engineering for kind of oversight in the cybersecurity world. And we're really going to kind of gear this towards, again, just teaching. You certainly don't have to use any of this information, and you should be familiar with how to run command prompts. But when you take a look at PII, right, how to identify and secure all drives holding client data, because that's one of the requirements. You can certainly use command prompting to do this, to data map your information and make a map of where all that important gold, if you would, client data is kept. If you don't know where it is, it can protect it. And I think that's, when we talk about using AI and using a DIY AI to do things like this, I think it's critical that you understand that you can do this right from your own computer. You're paying for tools externally that you can set up and do yourself. And you can have all those that data at the flip of your hands, right? You can use AI to draft a mapping path, document it, for your records, store your drive map in your compliance, little folder, and never leave it on a desktop where visitors can see it, right? Like you can instruct it what to do. So if you look here, and I'm going to let Adam Ole talk about the command prompt here, and he can read this to you. But he talked originally about you're giving it instructions. So let's take a look at let's say you wanted to find where all your PII set on your desktop or on your server. You can instruct it to run a command to check for everything, and then you can instruct it to find out all the locations, create a log daily to see if it's been touched or moved. And that's how you protect yourself. An auditor, if they walked in and they said, well, how do you know where all your PII is located on your system? You can pull out this daily log that whatever tool you want to use, and you could show them where it's saved, right? Whether it's externally or, locked down in a vault, as we say, um, and do that. But Adam, when we talk to us a little bit about PII, like using a command prompt like this, if you can see what I kind of recommended here. But what's your thoughts on this?
Okay, so reading out the prompt, right? You are a cybersecurity compliance officer for a tax firm. I need to build a PII inventory for IRS Bob 4557. Generate a table with 4 columns: asset name, location, local or cloud, data type, SSN slash bank info, and risk level. Then give me a step-by-step guide on how to search my Windows File Explorer for PDF files containing W2 or 1040, 1040 that are older than 3 years so that I can archive them. Interesting. So you are asking for step-by-step guide, and of course you are also creating that spreadsheet, right? Using your AI agents. What I would say here is it is very, very important. It is critically important to perform a manual review after an AI agent has performed this kind of a task for you. Like, it is your ultimate responsibility, right? It is your ultimate responsibility to ensure that you review whatever AI has done for you, right? And these actually saves you basically. And back to something Modise was talking about earlier. I always appreciated when a person is performing a task that they can do naturally but using AI to do it. So that puts you at a vantage position right? So if you're doing something that you know how to do naturally, myself being an accountant, Misha being an accountant, right? When you have prepared this spreadsheet, please, I beg you in the name of God, review the spreadsheet manually. And of course, also given the step-by-step guide, right? Ensure that you perform it manually in order to ensure that you're safe.
Yeah, I want to add to that though, right? Like, again, this is just a recommended on how to write a script and how we can use AI, right? To pull down data from your own system or wherever it might be that you're looking to do. I hear a lot of stories about people dumping spreadsheets in AI and doing analysis. And I want to call out something that I don't even think we talked about earlier on about AI. And the most important thing is there's different types of AI. There is your basic free AI, right, Adamoli? And then there's your paid AI tools, right? And there is a major
Some people
difference
don't want to pay for
between the
anything.
free and the paid. And why? What's the difference here, guys? Chip in. Let's talk about why we should never be using free with customer information. Why is that important here, especially when we're talking about PII? What are your thoughts on that, Animal?
So so basically, depending on the would I say the region where you live in, right? So I think for those of us in the other part of the world, GDPR is the regulation that is the Global Data Protection Regulations, right? So information should actually be provided to people or entities on a need to know basis. And we should understand that there are certain sensitive data that should not be revealed or exposed to third parties, right? And the free versions of these tools actually uh, take the data that you put into it and use it to train the tools, to train the LLM. Right? So it means if you are handling sensitive client data, you're actually exposing this client data to the system of the LLM. And of course, we know what happened with Claude, for example, with the data leak, right? You don't want to be in a situation wherein the data, sensitive data of your client is being leaked, right, to third parties. So it's very, very essential to avoid this because it could lead to reputational damage. It could even lead to litigation issues with your business, and that is not something that you want basically. But if you're using the paid versions of these tools, they stick to the relevant data protection regulations. I think I've forgotten what it's called in the US, but I know you guys in the US use like a different regulation system, right? So
Yeah, it's
it's
GBLA.
essential to
Yeah, it's a bunch of them. We got the alphabet soup regulations over here.
yeah, because the cost of compliance is always less than the cost of non-compliance. I don't know what Modise would like to add on this.
Um, Now I think you've mentioned everything that like I would have mentioned. It's really, yeah, primarily very sensitive data should have very sensitive parameters and frameworks which facilitate its usage. Just to kind of go back, because you had mentioned something, especially with regards to this prompt. So not just reviewing it after it's actually generated. A lot of these new prompts or tools actually have a planning mode, which allows you to kind of review the steps that it would take and it would engage in just before it actually executes it. And this is why, again, it's very important to only automate and work on stuff that you are very confident in and know, like you'd be able to correct it if it was like veering incorrectly or hallucinating or anything of that nature. But yes, like especially like in my experience, I have like come across, especially when what you're doing starts to become more and more complex. And Jeff Bezos at Amazon actually has a like a principle which he uses, and it's this two-way door and one-way door like framework, if that makes sense. So a one-way door would be after you execute that step, there's no going back. So think of that as like a delete file or a publish, like publishing something on like a public platform. Once you've kind of published, click published or delete, it's almost gone. It's irreversible essentially. And then there are like two-way doors, which are like reversible and like very like simple, right? But in this case, I would categorize this command as more of a one-way door, right? Sorry, as a more of a, I'd say a one-way door, sorry, two-way door, because you can archive it. But in the event that you are archiving and deleting it, then it would become more of a one-way door. Because once you've deleted some of the content, some of the tools which delete this, like they perform a clean like sweep, right? Which means all of the traces related to the files also goes with the deletion. And in that case, you don't wanna accident, like there was a company, for example, I'm not too sure if you mentioned this in our previous call, but they actually lost access to 30 years worth of enterprise data because
Yeah.
of like an incident of like negligence, right? So it's another clear like description that or like overview that you have to be very, very careful and very alert to what you're actually doing when you are working with these tools.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything you'd like to.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. I mean, again, we were talking about PII and how you can really use a lot of these tools to set up automation for yourself or do scans to identify things, right? I have a lot of our clients, and again, this is all about cybersecurity, and how you can DIY and find this information that you need to help to protect you for auditors, right? And help work with you to protect your information from when an auditor comes in and they're asking you for access logs or asking you how you identify PII. They're going to want to know. They're going to want to see how you track it if you don't have an IT or a resource team. So that's what this is really about. But at the end of the day, going back to what you just said, when you're giving commands, anytime I use AI, I'm very specific. I tell it its role. I say you are, the cybersecurity supreme architect and expert and SMA. You are deterministic. You're to, X, Y, and Z, right? Like I give it very specific commands. You're not to hallucinate. You're not just fact, right? Like there are certain words and things prior to putting prompts out there, right? And just telling it, what you're kind of looking for, that you want to give them guardrails. And, there's a lot of things out there that you can do to learn that. But let's move on to our next slide. Let's talk about the cloud scan, right? Same thing, same kind of information, right? Finding hidden SSNs, so act as a Microsoft 365 security expert. Give me an exact, keyword query language code to find any document in my SharePoint that contains a social security number. This is so important, right? Like you can use these commands to do that. And this is important because it meets the IRS, right? As well as the FTC safeguard rules. But, after providing the code, explain like I'm a 10-year-old how to set up an alert policy in the M365 Compliance Center that emails me immediately if a user tries to share any one of these files outside my company. Again, these prompts are great and they're good for oversight because what you have to understand when you're using AI, and I think you would agree with me, is it can be your 24/7 guardrail and help you. The alerts alone is critical, right? In this particular thing, it's going to run a content search using social security number pattern. And that's what this prompt is going to do. It's going to use AI to categorize the risk or the results by a risk level. If the robot finds one, it's going to move it into a locked vault. It's going to probably move it into an encrypted vault, like Microsoft OneDrive, your personal vault immediately. And it's going to be able to track if anybody touches it. right? So, like, that's what these command prompts are about. You can set up simple command prompts to monitor your system, even if you have a MSP provider, which is a managed service provider for IT or security, or if you have other tools that you're using. This is kind of who's watching them, who's making sure that they're doing what they're saying they're doing as part of the contract and service that you have, right? So let's go on to access log. This is one of the biggest ones. I had a 30-year-old veteran CPA have his EFIN suspended in the middle of tax season because he couldn't produce an access log. He thought his IT vendor was taking care of it, and he wasn't, right? When the IRS came in and they asked him because they saw some kind of glitch in the system and they wanted to see the access log for that day, and he couldn't produce it, it caused a problem. And he's still battling that. So think about that. By using some of these tools, they also save you not only the headaches, because I know Adamola talked, about reputational violations, things like that, but they'll also save you if an auditor walks in, they'll help you, right? You can do a simple command, right? Who's in your house? You want to understand any active users. This is critical. You need to understand those active users. You also need to practice least privilege, like I always tell everybody, because we like to give our gates and open doors to everybody. But that's a whole nother, training, right? But you can do this very easily, and you can print this, and you can have proof that you do this, and you can even set up AI to do this and monitor for you and create logs and put it in a folder right on your desktop or wherever your server and lock it down, right? Because this is really good. You can use AI to specifically watch whatever account an auditor, the IRS or FTC, look for changes, right? So you can share AI with certain parameters and guardrails to help you build a diary of records to keep you safe. And that's why I like using AI. But with parameters, right? When you say, like, I think you and I both would agree, being, very technical, we understand these tools probably too much. And again, we'll always lean on the bad, what it can do bad if you don't understand them. But let's go on to the ghost exit, right? This is another format, the 24-hour rule. The IRS, all the FTC, you have 24 hours in cybersecurity to kill someone's access, and it's mandated, right? It's in the rules and regulations. You need to make sure you shut off everything. You need to make sure that if you're using remote workers, that you're wiping their systems clean and not leaving them with data out there, because that's a data breach, right? That's a potential for someone else to come in. If they log into a system and they still have access to your VPN, they get hacked, they're going to come straight through to you, right? There's nothing stopping that. Okay. I mean, I had a client that had that similar situation, didn't kill a seasonal worker. And that was it. The kid was in a coffee shop. He got hacked. All they needed to do was sign in because he still had access to their systems. It's very simple. April 16th, right? April 15th is the end of tax season here for most. You need to have a process in place. The last thing you want to do is leave an open door. I'm going to say, talk a little bit about what that open door and a breach, right? Like when we talk about a ghost exit and we talk about doing a wipe here, right? And you're taking a look at like this command prompt, right? What do you think is most important about this command prompt? I'll just ask you that.
So I think when it comes to doing a wipe, like a lot of the, I wanna like even before like prompting or before you get to AI, because like we did mention like emails and like Trojans and like seasonal workers, that kind of a thing. It's very important to also ensure that like once again, I think having an actual person that can be responsible for your AI strategy is like very critical. Because, for example, like if you were to do this by yourself and you weren't again entirely like in tune with what it was actually doing, and like for example, a review came or an audit came, and you weren't able to actually explain some of what you implemented well enough, like it would reflect very badly on you. Whereas if you had like a qualified ex, like Michelle, for example, like doing this or handling this for you, it would allow you to understand that not only do you have access to this to implement it yourself, but you can actually consult, and you can actually reference and ask any types of questions which you might have. Because again, from what I've noticed when using these tools, is a lot of the scope is like somewhat restricted to your like domain expertise, right? So you're again like Ademola had actually mentioned that the agent or tool is only as good as the person that's using it. So if you have a blind spot, your blind spot is going to get coded or prompted into your agent. And while it can help with certain like angles, some of the blind spots are more like subtle. Like it's not even something you would think to make sense of, right? And the reason I'm actually bringing this up is because so Anthropic actually has a new model which they had released, and this model they deemed it to be a little bit too powerful to release to the public, right? So they're actually creating a bit of like a, I guess you could say like a coalition or like an organization of like the biggest companies, which so like your infrastructure like services, so like your Amazon, your Google, your Metas, those kinds of companies that provide the foundational layers. Because what happened was this tool essentially they created a sandbox environment, which
Yeah.
is think of a sandbox environment as like an isolated like container, right? So it's independent of anything. So and the reason something like that would exist is so that, for example, if you were testing scripts or something and you didn't want it to affect your main host machine, that is where sandboxing comes in. So they had this kind of isolated environment, and they prompted this tool to effectively like break out of it, right? And while the like one of the Anthropic team members was eating a sandwich in a park, it emailed them like unprovoked, just to let them know that yeah, I managed to actually escape from the sandbox. And the way it does this, again, it's so like the way the tools are developing is a little bit like concerning, because like it makes the space so much more fragile and vulnerable. Because like while they are like security experts, like the way the nature tech like of tech is very platform specific, like I say security experts are pretty rare, because of just how technically and intimately you need to understand the tool.
Yeah.
Just by that itself, it limits the scope so much. So like when you introduce a tool which already has the context of everything else, and now it's able to like pick up minute errors, right? So like one of there was like a 27-year-old like vulnerability, which was actually like they patched it now, but it detected it, right? And this was from a very I forget the name of that specific tool, but it was like it's known for its security, right? And then like another example would be like a Linux terminal, right? So Linux is typically what you use for your more like system specific like prompts, like if you want to work on your tool at a much more like granular level, closer to like your RAM, your storage. This is very like technical, so I don't think a lot of the audience would
Yeah.
understand it, but
No.
it's think of it as like you're essentially, if you were to add an assistant to your machine, these are the tools that it would use to actually help you achieve what you want to achieve. And this tool was able to give itself like root access, so the administrator access, like through piecing together these small vulnerabilities, which by them, yeah, it's such an interesting and a fascinating yet very concerning like development. So just make sure you're on the latest firmware. Just make sure you update your devices. and just make sure that you're really working in very like secure environments where you don't leave yourself open to like threats, right? And this also includes keeping up to date with recent trends, because the more up to date you are and the more within the space I'd say you are, the less or the more you understand about how to like implement these safety measures to ensure that like you don't fall victim to some of these like developments, because it's very easy to kind of just fall into it without even knowing in some cases. So just make sure you're putting in the work to make sure you understand at least an overview, right, or an oversight, or at least are in tune with the person in your company that can help you do that. Because yeah, the way the tools are advancing, that is really the best thing to do. I would. Um,
I agree. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're talking about ghost accent and everything else, but I mean, understanding how these tools are operating and the vulnerabilities that are with these tools when you're using them is critical. I mean, in most cases, like when we're teaching somebody how to set up the ghost exit, it's simple, right? Like this is just something that they're going to monitor on their system. It'll send them an email, it'll send them an alert, but these tools can go in depth. Real time alerts, right? And you just kind of got into that, right? Like you can use these tools for automatic patching, right? Or to identify if MFA, if everybody's using MFA and flag it. I'll tell you this, right? Like, it ensures your computers are updated and patched so hackers, right, can't, find the holes in it. And that's important, especially like if you're a one person solopreneur CPA, you don't have an IT team. You don't have, these smaller companies do not have the resources, and they're relying on external vendors to protect them, a lot of them, right? But who's watching those vendors? Who's making sure that these things are happening? Because these are all required by law. These are mandated in the cybersecurity world to have these things in place. So, when I take a look at, given a prompt like acting as a Windows system administrator, give me a step by step guide to ensure automatic updates are enforced for all 10 computers in my office using a group policy or Intune. Additionally, write a prompt I can use daily to ask what are the top three most critical security patches released in Microsoft Adobe Drake this week that I need to verify are installed. Like, again, you can use these tools to give you oversight. And it also is protecting you because third party vendor assessments now are a mandate here. I'm sure GDPR has their own um, rules and regulations, but in the US, you need to verify that third party vendor and that your stuff and your information and your data is protected. So when you use AI in something like this for like a real time alert, it can give you an insight to what you need to maybe go back and ask that vendor. And you need to confirm because ultimately, I'll tell you this, the IRS and the FTC doesn't care if your vendor had a breach, they're going to hold you responsible. And that's the change this year. It's about governance, it's about accountability, right? I mean, Microsoft Defender, you can use that for an endpoint. But I'll tell you, a lot of people are jumping in on the Microsoft Sentinel, right? I think the Microsoft Sentinel Analytics is very in depth, right? You can use this. It's in Microsoft Portal. You go to Microsoft Defender, you go to Microsoft Sentinel Analytics, you click create, schedule a query rule, you prompt it. You need to, you don't need to code. You can use Security Copilot to write the command for you. Just ask, write a Sentinel rule to alert me if a user logs in from two different countries in less than an hour. I'm just giving you an idea, right? Like that's what real time alerts are all about, and using AI tools like this to do for you because it puts you in the driver's seat. You're not waiting for a service provider to pick up an alert, now having their team, because Adam always said it best, you need that human oversight, and that's where the errors come. So your third party person that's getting all these alerts, they have to determine if it's a false positive, what is real, what's not real, depending on the tools that they use, depending on who's viewing it, depending on what time of night that these things start to blow off. um, you're at risk, right? I mean, I say that all the time. You're at risk if you yourself don't add that extra layer of responsibility and set up your own alerts to manage the people that are supposed to be watching your systems. Then boohoo on you when you get breached, because I see it happen all the time, right? See it happen all the time. Orders will ask you for your incident response logs. They love to ask for that. Sentinel, if you use like Microsoft Sentinel keeps this automatically. It'll show the date of the alert, what the AI did, and when it cleared it. So again, you can use these tools to your benefit, and I think that's critical here. Easy to win. Watch the door. Not all robots are safe, and we talked a lot about that today. Only use tools that promise to keep your secrets a secret. That's what I like to say. A lot of this AI stuff, again, if you're not using a paid platform or an enterprise grade, you're putting yourself at risk. You need to teach, you know, you need to teach that AI what it can do and what it can't do. And that's what you're using. That's what you're doing here ultimately with anything that you're doing with command prompt. You're teaching it your business, your business model, the expectations of your business, and what your business needs are by doing these command prompts, right? And you got to know that, right? You can log in, watch the doors, you can export your logs, you can, ask it to, do queries if anybody's logging in at 3 a.m. in the morning consistently. Those are all things that we take a look at in our regular day to day from a cybersecurity perspective, because it could indicate a data breach, things going on, right? And I think, Mosisi said it really, really well. There was a client, right? We know that AI can be hacked too. It's been all over. But this is not something new. It can deliver payloads. Hackers today are your biggest threats, right? Those threat actors, nation states, and we hear a whole bunch of them, right? There's so many new protocols. The FBI just put out massive warning about, reinforcing your infrastructure and your endpoints and everything else, because we know what's going on out there. But AI can help prevent a lot of that stuff. Easy wins. I'm just going to blow through this really quick. But these are things, and this deck, right? You can go right in, set this up. It's very clear. These are things that you can toggle on, turn on to help protect your system. Regulators look for continuous monitoring. They don't want to see, that you don't have a plan. They want to know that you're actually governing and doing something. It's not about writing it in your WISP or saying, oh, this is my policy and procedure. This is how I protect client PII. No. You need to show how you're actually doing it. And it goes to what Mosisi was saying. You got to understand and be that expert to be able to explain it, how you got it, right? And I think that's critical here. We can map your PII drives again. Very easy commands here, things that you can do to turn it on. It's not hard to follow. And you can certainly produce the information that you need from an auditor's perspective. But email phishing, very simple, right? Turn on spoof intelligence. It's going to put a nice little monitor right on top of your email. It's going to tell you, it's going to recognize patterns. It's going to say, oh, I've never received an email from this person before. Is there, should I save it? Should I not? Is it an alert? Is it somebody trying to hack me? We all know that 90% of all breaches happen from phishing emails. 90%. You click in on the links. People love to click on those links. Adam Oli, remember when we were doing the deep fake training?
Yes.
Another topic for another day, right? Deep fakes. I'm sure Modise knows well about deep fakes, right? With the voice cloning, everything today. And ironically, I was just at a conference on Tuesday and they were talking about deep fakes. And, one of the guys up on the stage was sharing how one of their clients got deep faked. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, you can only train so much. You've got to be in the trends. And I think Modisi said that really well. Like, you as a business owner should always be on top of what's happening out there in the industry, even if you think it doesn't pertain to you. And I know a lot of us, I mean, I read, I make it, I cut out, you're going to laugh at me, but 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up. The first thing I do is I have it all blocked out on my calendar. I read all the trends that are going on in the industry because I want to know. I need
And
to know.
the tools are getting more advanced by the day.
Right? You could use your AI. Talk about that, right, Adam Oli? You can give me a command prompt that you could say, give me all the industry trends. Tell me, what would that look like, right? I don't know, Adam Oli. I just think we could do so much. But again, audit logs, again, these are just some simple steps that you could do to set up for yourself. What questions do you have out there? I mean, I don't know if there's anybody on the line for questions, but I really like for us to just kind of shoot the breeze here. And if there's no questions, I don't know if there is one.
Oh wow, there are
Yeah.
many questions.
I saw a whole bunch of them, right? Hey, listen, you know what? We do this webinar, once a week now, right? And this is what's important. But maybe we should use AI prompting.
Do we start from the top to the bottom? Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm looking at the comment section right now. So Honor Magello, shout out to him. He says cybersecurity is our only lifeline moving forward. Thanks for the webinars, Michelle, Adimola, and Modis. And Modis, Haida Ali, okay, he says 100. One breach to AI-based system can cause whole system failure. And he says, are we exposed if we totally rely on AI agents?
So I'll give you my perspective. I think if you rely on anything 100%, you're exposed. There's no such thing as security, right? We have cybersecurity, we have security measures, but in reality, security is not 100%. Nothing is 100%. That's my thought on it. What's your thought on it? I'll leave it up to you guys to answer that.
The only 100% security comes from God.
You better believe it.
This is again like why you have to be so like in tune with what you're doing. Because a lot of these errors come from not understanding the technology that you're using. Like you don't understand it well enough to know what the implications could be, right?
Right.
And this is where it can be just as bad as it can be good, like starts to really like factor in. So I would highly recommend that you look into the tool to understand how it works before you start but even like playing around with it is not a problem. It's only like when very specific or sensitive data comes into play, when it becomes even more critical to like ensure that you acknowledge this accordingly.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that. I'm not even sure. Like, I see people write books using AI, right? We all know people are plagiarizing, doing this, doing that. It's even with the simplest things that, you got to understand. Again, it's going to go back to what you said, understanding the tool, understanding the outputs, right? Nothing is safe though. And I think, you both would agree with me. I mean, I've built an AI driven compliance platform myself, right? And this platform that, I'm showing you all now, right? Like, this is built for becoming a compliance partner for small businesses and meeting and helping them get all of the reporting, analytics, documentation to be audit ready. But it's still a risk, even with me building this tool, right? And deploying it. We talked about that, right? Like, ultimately, I'm responsible for all the information and downloads or whatever it might be, ingestion of the data that's going to come through this tool, right, for audit. So I always want to make sure that I'm clear about what I'm doing and I'm testing and testing and testing and monitoring. But that was a great question. I think, It's a really valid question when you think about it. What other questions we have? Any other great questions like that out there, Adamola?
Okay. Haida Ali says, to be honest, it's worth it. Attend. Okay, it's worth it to attend this session. It's actually you are talking real facts. Exactly. And of course, he is asking, how do we access these slides for study and learn? Please reply.
Great
Okay.
question.
Join the school
So
community.
yes, go for it. You answer.
Okay, so you can join the school community. We'll try to drop the link to the school community in the YouTube link, and of course, I have noted your name. I would reach out to you via LinkedIn. Um, Let me just send you a LinkedIn connection request right away, and I will send to you the link to the school community group. I hope that works for you. And of course, it says this is some serious stuff. Michelle Ademola Modise clapping. Thank you for the appreciation. We appreciate the appreciation.
Yeah. Any other questions out there? I think these are great questions, and I'm glad that folks that have joined today are getting information, like in getting a need for it, right? Because I think it's important that we just share. I mean, we could sit here and train and teach you step by step, but I think it's more important that you understand our biggest opportunity here today was to make you understand how AI works and what it can be used for, but also with the limitations of it. Because I think that's important more than anything, right? Understanding the boundaries and the guardrails that need to be built around using tools like this is even more critical. And, I'll share that. I don't know what both of you feel.
I'm honestly trying to find this person on LinkedIn, but there are so many people with the same name. So I think what I would advise is please send me a connection request on LinkedIn or send Michelle a connection request on LinkedIn, and we'll send you the link to join the school community. Yes, send it to me. I will send it to you. Send me a connection request on LinkedIn. I will accept it and I will send it to you. Quick one, just on a lighter note. Michelle mentioned about people who write books with AI. And I have a friend that I know in real life. He wrote a book on AI using ChatGPT.
Mhm.
And it's on Amazon.
Listen, that's one of the biggest things I see out there today. You have a lot of these, there's so many people looking to make money, right, holistically and do things. And you have a lot of these people selling all these different types of, things that you could do to make money. And, I came across something because I had a friend myself. Oh, did you hear I can make books and go on Kindle and blah, blah, blah. And I'm said, yeah. And what are you talking about? What are you going to write? Oh, I don't even need to write anything. There's these people called ghostwriters, and I said, well, that's great. So you're going to write a book that you're going to put your name on, but you didn't really write it, and you're using a tool that's going to write it for you, and you have no idea what it's about because it's just about making money. But that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I think it's great, right? But you've got to use again these tools with boundaries and guardrails because ultimately you got to stand behind that information that you're getting and using. And I want to go back to something that was said earlier. You got to use a bot to protect yourself from a bot, right? Adamola, I always say that. You got to use a
And to
bot to
find a
protect
bot, you
yourself
need a bot.
because if you don't, everything is built on AI, and then you got quantum computing that's coming along, right? Like there's all new mandates around QPC, and over the next couple of years, I don't even know. Listen, QPC is going to destroy everything we know about AI, and I think you would agree with me, what you say. And I'm already hardening my system with QPC, right, and understanding how that's going to work because encryption is going to be gone. It's going to be obliterated once QPC goes into effect. And all of these major companies are scrambling because they're working on systems that are so adequated. The cost to turn these systems over to get them You're talking banks, Bitcoin, like I'm talking major problems, right? Like with QPC, and Modisi, what's your thoughts on QPC? Just out of the norm, because I know that I'm sure you got some deep insight into this, because I know I do.
The quantum aspect to it, I think the good thing is that a lot of it is still in development. So we don't have to
Right.
worry about it like just too like imminently. But it still is like just keeping up with recent trends. And I think just to ensure that you're in the know, especially like with your industry specific like events and information, because that allows you to just ensure that you have access to the relevant experts, which are able. So, like Michelle, for example, like please reach out and book a call. We'd love to chat. But yeah, just to make sure that you are in tune and are in a position to actually understand like what is happening, because it's one thing to have the information and it's an entirely different thing to understand what it means for you. So just to ensure that having that like pool of experts that you can reach out to is very, very critical, and it's becoming even more critical as the technology like evolves.
Well, Adamola, let me ask you this, and I agree with you, Moses, and I think it's important that you point that out. But I know the UE, right? Like I know there's mandates 2020. They're saying 2029. I mean, it's right around the corner. Like the UA just put out some, first mandates, like rules and regulations that they're coming out with, because obviously this is a problem. They're already out there. QPC is already out there. I know, companies now that are already integrating and using it, and I know a major company over in the UE that I'm really good friends with him, Brian, and we talk about it all the time. Like the things that his company, he works with the government, so he has a lot of insight into the scramble that's happening with QPC. But Adamola, like when you think about your clients that you speak with, right? I don't, and we talk about AI, and I want to get back to AI, right? Like, and here's my friend Adamola, right? The 2%er, the 1%. Next slide, next week, we're going to see that 1%. I'm going to have to change.
God willing,
Uh,
God willing.
yeah, God willing.
There's somebody
Talk
in
to
the comment
us, right?
section. There's somebody in the comment section. I'm trying to send the school community link to him. So he has sent his LinkedIn what do you call it? His LinkedIn account. So I need to just quickly drop the school community link to him real quick. So thank you very
Okay.
much. I'm Haida Ali. Right. I hope I'm not butchering your name. I am about to send you an invitation on LinkedIn. Wow, this is one of those people that you need to write like an essay before before you can send them a connection request. Hey, brother, uh, please send me a request. I just followed you on LinkedIn, and I will. I think I'm able to message you. Yes, I just sent you the message. So kindly check your LinkedIn inbox so you have the link to the school community. And of course, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Back to you, Michelle.
No, any other questions out there? I mean, I know that we had a few, but this is really, we were just talking about like AI, getting back to AI, and we got off on a tangent on QPC. But you've interviewed a lot of people, right, in the prospective
Okay.
world. I know that, on the technical end of it. What are you hearing is the concerns on the technical end, especially with AI? What are you hearing out there?
Wow. So there are a lot of AI naysayers. Uh, and from the technical side, I think there are a lot of people with contrarian views, right? And of course, I always make the joke that I think these people have seen too much sci-fi, and they think that
I don't
AI
think they
is
have. I have to tell you. Maybe they know more than we do.
okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Hader. He just dropped another comment, right? So basically, in terms of the negatives, right? I see people with highly contrarian views, right? Thinking that the really powerful AI tools we get into the hands of the wrong people, and it might have like really, really diabolical consequences. So you think about um, military weapons, nuclear weapons, and think about how AI intersects with, you know, um, even things like electrical grids, right? It is
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah,
And
OT and IT. OT is a whole nother ball game. We just saw the FBI here yesterday put out a major mandate because it was attacked. The infrastructures, that's what they're going after is infrastructure. All your dams, your
yeah,
water, and they broke
it's
in. They
crazy.
have proof. They have proof.
Mhm. So when you think about the negative consequences we could have if AI gets into the wrong hands, it is highly unimaginable. But we have certain experts, especially the leading AI futurists. So interestingly, Global Gurus at the beginning of the year released a list of the top 30 global futurists, and a lot of them are AI experts or AI
Yeah.
enthusiasts. On the podcast, I think among the top 30, we've had quite a number of these guys on the podcast, and we have, I think, two of them scheduled to be on the podcast later this month. So you guys should watch out for that. But one thing they are calling for is regulation in the AI space, because
Yeah.
as with any new technology, right, regulation is very important in order to ensure that you don't have unwanted negative consequences. However, what is the problem? AI is going at a very fast pace, right? And the private sector is adopting it at a faster pace than the public sector. But how
Yeah.
can you regulate something you don't understand? If you don't understand something, then you stand under that thing. So it's really, really alarming. And of course, my good friend Rohit Tower, that's a number two um, futurist in the world. He's scheduled to be on the podcast soon. He's currently on a tour in Asia, and he talks about how when you look at the power that is in the hands of the big tech firms, it's becoming alarming, because when you talk about the top four, these guys combined have more financial power than, would I say, I can't remember the number, right? But I think more than more than 20% of the countries in the world. That is, when you look at these AI organizations, the financial power that they have is actually more than even the GDP of more than 20% of countries in the world. And what happens when the power is with the tech firms, when the power is with the private sector? So it's really alarming, but I'm an optimist, and I believe that we will find a way, would I say, a positive pathway in the end, right? Because in the history of mankind, definitely there have always been disruptive technologies, and we've always found a way to make things good.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go. I mean, I agree with that. Listen, we're at the end of our peak. We have 3 minutes left here for this web class today. But I think the icing on the cake with AI is it's not going away, right? And we're gonna have the ability of the things that we can do today with computers. When I think back about 20 years ago, 40 years ago, right, when the first computers really started to come out, and 30 years ago, because that's how old I am. you know eh, the evolution of technology is fantastic, but if it's not yielded in the right way, can be devastating, and we know that. And unfortunately, you have people out there that want to use it for not good things. And that's, ultimately we have to stay one step further. And to add on to, there is rules and regulations, right? Like the US just put out, President Trump, right, put out COBM, right? Like, we know AI is big, and we're trying to catch up as fast as we could, because we'll never be able to learn it as fast as it's dishing out. We can only control it so much, right? And be proactive. But I'm gonna leave it off to you, Medice, right? Like, let's hear your final thoughts here, right, about AI.
I think new technology is always interesting because of how it impacts our current lives. So once again, I think it's very important just to make sure you are up to date with what's happening. I know it can be overwhelming. So if you aren't up to date, at least ensure that the people around you are up to date so that you can kind of help each other elevate. Because that is definitely something that, like, moving forward, becomes more and more relevant. You realize that this isn't like a solo journey. You typically need very strong like teams and personnel around you to help like uplift you and to help you reach the levels that you need to. So definitely reach out if you need assistance, and just ensure that even on your side as an individual, you're putting in the work to ensure that you are also as, I'd say, in the know, or as capable, or as looped in as possible. Um, and I think, yeah, just be
Yeah.
good, but be cautious as well. Don't be naive. So keep an open mind, but also understand the risks that you are taking in the process as well.
Yeah. And let's just wrap it up, Animal. Bring us home with the school community. What are we trying to achieve? What are we? Let's do this, right? I think having this conversation today was great. But what are we? What's the school all about? What are we doing there?
Quick before I talk about what the school community is about, Haida Ali, I have sent you the link to the school community, and of course via LinkedIn. So kindly send me a request, a connection request. So basically, the school community is aimed at achieving four things. That is, we are a community of entrepreneurs and professionals that come together in the ecosystem to learn, to network, to collaborate, and to elevate. Basically, that's what it is about. And of course, if that resonates with you, would love to see you inside of the school community.
Yeah, come on and join us, everyone. Listen, love it. So again, I'm Michelle Novak, founder of Cardinal Bytes, cybersecurity and risk and compliance management. We help small businesses keep safe, build a security posture, one person at a time. So if you need any help, reach out to us. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on probably plenty of platforms here. But thank everybody for joining us today. We appreciate the
Amazing.
comments. And look forward to helping you.
Amazing. Hader Halley says he's successfully signed up. So see you in the community.
Beautiful.
Uh,
We'll see you there, Hada. I'm going to close this out. Bye, everyone.
bye, guys.